So now that all of your prep is complete, we'll move into the install. So as you see here, there are a few things that I want to go over. It's that the flowers can be installed a couple different ways. So if you see here, this one is pretty flat and straightforward. The way that that was achieved is it's hot glued directly onto the trellis itself. You'll also see that some are installed at a slight angle. So that's achieved by drilling a small hole and inserting a piece of wire into the bottom of the flower. That way you can stab it into the trellis and then it gives it a little bit more dimension. You'll also be adding in these ivy leaves, and those are installed in a couple different ways as well. So the bigger ones, it's pretty straightforward. They're glued either straight to the trellis or they're attached to the underside of some of the petals. So I'll go through that. And then as you go up the composition to the bottom, everything is pretty big. All of our large and extra large flowers are concentrated towards the bottom. And as you make your way up, the ivy and the flowers get smaller. So you'll see the small and then the medium flowers are concentrated more towards the top. And then we also incorporated some of the ivy strands towards the top as well. Okay, so what you'll find here is all of my materials for installation. I have some wire snips, I have the 12 gauge wire, a hot glue gun, drill, and then all of my flowers and all of my pre-shaped ivy. So to start, I'm going to install one of them just flat on the trellis. So I think I'm gonna put a large one roughly in here. And you'll definitely wanna reference your scenarios for this, for flower placement. And so this is pretty simple. You'll go ahead and add some hot glue to the back side of your flower. And then you'll go ahead and press this onto the trellis. Just make sure that your glue is hitting part of the trellis and it's not lined up over a hole. And then I'll just hold that in place for a minute. And then I can move on to the next one. So I'm gonna grab a different size here, maybe a medium flower. This one I want to install at a slight angle. I want it to kind of take up this space here. And so in order to do that, I'm gonna need to insert wire on the back side of this. So I'll go ahead and grab my snips. And then I'll cut, I don't know, maybe a 6-inch or so length. Doesn't need to be exact. And then in order to put this here, I'm going to need to drill, a hole. So I have, let me see what bit this is. Unclear, but I would guess somewhere around 1/8 of an inch drill bit. You don't want it to be too big because you don't want the wire to slip back out super easily. Okay, and then another thing here is you want to make sure that you're going to drill into roughly the center so that you come into this little centerpiece. And so I'll line that up. And you don't need to drill very far, it just needs to be a start for the piece of wire. Okay. Then you'll go ahead and insert the wire. And you don't want to press it too hard, otherwise it will come out through the center. And then I can go ahead and carefully insert this into the trellis. So you'll come in at an angle. So once you roughly can see where you'd like to place that, you can go ahead and stab the wire in, like so. And then, from most sides, you're not going to be able to see that wire, but if you can, so I can see it from over here. Realistically, this is going to be on the floor, so the wire would actually probably be okay. But I'm gonna go ahead and grab one of my smaller ivies to hide that. And so what I can do then is add some hot glue right here on the ends. And then hot glue directly to the petals themselves. Just hold that in place for a minute. And then my wire is hidden on this right side. So then another thing you can do with the ivy if you're not gluing directly to the petals, is glue to the trellis itself. So I'll go ahead, since I am at the bottom of my composition, I want to have the ivy match the bigger flower. So I'll grab one of the large ivies. You can go ahead and add, let's see, I want to put that one right in there. So I can feel that behind this, I'm touching. So I'm going to kind of mark that spot with my fingers, flip that over, and then I'll add a little bit of hot glue. And then line that back up underneath here. And then you can just hot glue the spine of that directly to the trellis. Hold for a couple seconds. Just make sure to pick off any excess hot glue. You don't want hot glue strands everywhere. And then your ivy's glued on. And again, you'll make sure that as you go up the trellis, the ivy also gets smaller. The flowers get smaller. And then you'll also just add some variation in color. So some areas could have a higher concentration of purple, others it could be lighter, almost white. You're going to be adding the hooks to the top of this. And so maybe come in about, I don't know, ½ an inch. It'll line up roughly with the vertical little trim here. And then I'm not gonna drill very far, just putting a tiny hole to start, because you want to thread this hook in so that this is gripping. So you don't want to make, actually I don't even really need to drill. I'm just gonna poke a hole. And then I'll poke a hole in here roughly around the same spot as the other side. Like so. And then I'm gonna add a tiny bit of hot glue onto the end of this hook. And then I'll just start to twist this into the hole. So you don't want to just jam this straight in. We want the teeth of the hook to be gripping the foam and then also gluing as it goes. So I'm just going to keep going and keep going until the hook is pretty close to the top of the foam. And then I'll just stop when it's facing back. And then I'll repeat that on the other side. All right, so then the next step then is to take your ivy strands and connect them together. So I'm going to grab 2 of these, and then I'll take one, and sort of the way that you overlap the wire in order to make this, you're gonna overlap the wire down near the bottom, and then you'll go ahead and twist them together. So this is very similar to the process of making them, except now we're just gonna be making them longer, like this. And then you'll repeat that with the other one, and then you'll hang it.